Hello there folks, my name's Ben and welcome to another shots fired airsoft video. And today we're going off the beaten path a little bit. Now I'll be the first one to tell you that I'm not a firearms expert at all. I live in the UK, I have very little experience with firearms. I have fired a shotgun and that's about it. Interest for me in airsoft is primarily as a game, although I do love the guns as machines. I like maintaining them, I like tinkering with them, upgrading them, and I do like the stranger builds, although I appreciate an M4, although it's a very played out platform. It's because it's a good platform to use for airsoft. So what we have in this very plain looking box, obviously shouty graphics and that, but we have no information on the box whatsoever. There's the briefest of warnings on the side, and on the back it says R901, because this is Army Armament's version of a Steyr AUG. I think it's an AUG, but I call it an AUG, and it's one of my favourite weapons platforms just because it looks so funky and it's a bullpup, and I like bullpups. So I'm going to do my best to show you the features of this weapon, because there is not that much documentation on it on the internet, very little mentions of it, and it is actually quite an interesting platform as an airsoft gun itself, not just because it's an AUG, but because it has a lot of features that are not immediately apparent. It's also an extremely cool takedownable weapon. So without further ado, I'm just going to open this box and we're going to have a look inside it. I have already had this out and gone through it to make sure everything is as it should be. Unless you know this weapons platform, there is no documentation in here, there's no manuals, nothing. There's no battery, there's no charger, it is just literally the gun and the magazine. Then again, you can buy these for about £100. I paid 120 for this one because the stocks are limited at the moment, so you're pretty much just buying it from wherever you can get it at the moment. So without further ado, I'm going to pop this box and I'll show you what's inside. The box is quite large, so I'm struggling for space a little bit. I probably should have done this one in the unit, but it's night and there's no lighting in the unit at all. And there we have it. Doesn't quite fit on screen, but we won't worry about that too much. In terms of what's in the box, you get 2 bags of silica gel. Good to know that it won't be wet, but also don't heat it. We have a sort of waffle style AUG mag. I believe it's a 330 round high cap magazine, one's on the bottom. There is, hiding in here somewhere, your cleaning and drumming rod, and it is long because we have a very long barrel in this, being a bullpup. And then we have the weapon itself. Now I'm going to get this out of the box, and I'll be back with you in a second. Get this box out of the way so it uses up all the room. So here we are. This is the A1, which is the standard long barrel setup. They do loads of different versions, but getting anything other than this one in this country at the moment is almost impossible. And thanks to the European post issues and importing RAFs at the moment from Europe, getting one from anywhere else is almost impossible. So this is what we're left with. I would have preferred the CQB because so it was a CQB version, although I would imagine this front end is swappable, so I may be able to pick one up later and actually convert this. But just to go over the features of the external features of the gun, we have a foldable foregrip which folds into the forwards position. We have our sort of faux charging handle, which will sit back and actually opens the ejection port in here and exposes the pop-up adjuster. Interesting side note, this is actually on both sides, so if you're right or left-handed you can actually access your hop with your good hand, so to speak. And whichever one you want to cover up, it just comes with this little rubber sort of port hider, or you can have both open if you want. So if you let that go down, you'll see that little door shuts. It does sort of click into place nicely. We have 2 quick detachable sling points, front and back. We have a 20mm RAS system on top, on the sides at angles, on the underside near the grip guard. We have our fire selection switch and safety as well. We have our sort of takedown nodule, and I will show you how this gun comes apart. It's very cool, very sort of realistic, and so to speak. We have our mag well here, and this is our big chunky mag release. That's about all for this gun. This side, I'm just going to flip it over. So this side, we have a serial number, we have an extra rail where there's no charging handle on this side, so they plug another rail on there. Apart from that, again, we're pretty much the same as the other end. At the front of the weapon, we have a very nice metal flash hider, and you can see the barrel comes right to the front of the weapon. So from about here forwards is all barrel, which means it should be relatively accurate. And it's got quite a soft spring in it at the moment because it has to be downgraded. I think they go about 400 FPS standard. I haven't tried this one for a chronograph yet, obviously, because I'm just really unboxing it. I don't really use the guns until I actually unbox them. And there's a little set screw here to remove this threaded attachment, and under there is a 14mm thread, so you can fit whatever sort of standard tracers, silencers, whatever you want to add on the front, or different flash hiders, whatever you fancy. And then on the front we have sort of this gas block assembly, which is nice and scaled. Doesn't actually do anything on this particular weapon, obviously, but it is there, so it looks pretty legit. The grip, if you pull it down and forwards, it will lock in the forwards position like that, and then to get it back down again, you pull it and it will lock in the down position. These have a habit of breaking, so we'll see how that lasts. The underside of the gun has this little sort of lever down here. This is your takedown lever, and I'll show you how it works in a minute. So I might have to get you a bit closer to do that, and you have to deal with only seeing about a millionth of the gun at once. This is a long weapon. It's considerably longer than a sort of like a CQB style M4. It's almost, well, it's 3/4 sniper length, I think, would be sort of the most accurate way I could put it. If I just bring it around here, like I said, this is your firing selector, so you've got safe, and then you push it through from the other side and you can see a red dot for fire. That is me speak at it. It's not really a firing selector, it is a pure safety, because this operates on a short pull, a semi-auto, and then full pull, and you can hear the micro switch engage, and that's your full auto. Your battery storage is in the back, so this butt pad comes off. It is a bit of a ball ache to get off. I often carry a little screwdriver with me for just such an occasion, so I have that off in a bit, and I'll show you the battery compartment. It does have a stick pack in it at the moment, or like a nunchuck stick pack, which I've just borrowed out of one of my other guns because just to get it running. Okay, so here we are, a bit closer. You have to bear with me on this, it's going to be a tad awkward, because it does actually take a fair bit of work. So I believe the first thing that we need to do is lock the charging handle back into position. Right back there. And then if we get this foregrip out of the way, and I just turn you this over and show you this, we should then be able to pull this lever down and in. And when we do that, we should be able to then twist and then pull out the barrel assembly. So you can see I've got the whole barrel assembly in my hand. And that is your hop adjustment and feed on the end there. I'll just get it in camera. So all that comes out as one piece, including the foregrip. Then, once we've done that, if we come back here, we've got this big block in the middle. If you can push that out from one side, that is a heavy metal piece, by the way, you're not going to break that. And there is, just to be warned, a little metal tab that just sits in here. That can fall out, don't lose it, it's part of the locking mechanism for the gun. But once we've done that, this whole front section simply pulls out the front, like so. And then there you have your broken down AUG. Just going to pop that back in for a minute so we don't lose any little metal tabs. There we are. This section of the gun is absolutely beautiful. This is entirely metal. There's no plastic to be seen here. It weighs a small ton. The gearbox obviously in one of these is sat back here. It sort of finishes about here, but I will show you the back of the gun in a minute, and you can see where the spring change is done. Because that's one of the things I've forgotten to mention. This is actually a quick change spring system. So you undo 2 posies at the back and you can access the spring immediately. There's no tearing down, no pulling out the gearbox, nothing like that. You can, once it's out, you see how the charging system works. I'm sorry if I'm off camera at this point, but I think I'm good. I can't see the camera from where I'm sitting. And that's your sort of the upper receiver of the gun. Coming back to the barrel briefly, you can see how things are held together. A couple of little screws here and there. I'm kind of hoping that, like I say, that I can remove this longer barrel and fit a shorter one with a shorter internal barrel to use it for CQB, because I don't need the length. And I'm very much intending on using this in CQB because I think it'd be awesome. The actual lower receiver itself, it's very weighty still. I mean, it's quite a heavy gun overall. I think it's about 3 and a bit kilos. I will weigh it in a bit. I've just popped this cover off, and this just has like a lip around the inside. The easiest way of doing it, I've found, is when it's on there, if you squeeze the weaker sides, it's like the 2 sides here together, it malforms this, and you can kind of pop it out, get a finger in there and squish it in and pull it out. It is only soft rubber, so it does come out fairly easily. And in here we have something which is a fairly recent addition to this series, I believe. This is a MOSFET. So this will protect your trigger mechanism from overcurrent and give you a LiPo cutoff, I believe. Like I say, it's only a bit of conjecture because there was no documentation with this gun. The only places I've seen this MOSFET mentioned at all is on Tyrant Gun in their listing. None of the listings I've seen in the UK have this listed. So this gun is actually a mosfet AUG, which is quite unusual and awesome. You know, you don't really see it very often. So that in there is your battery storage, and in there, oops, sorry if I can get the focus, that's your quick change spring point there. So you don't even have to actually remove the plate in the back. That's to get the actual magazine out. You undo that cap, and that gives you direct access to your spring without doing any other work to get into the gearbox. That said, I'm going to put this back together, and then I'm going to weigh it for you, and we'll put the mag in, and I'll show you what it looks all back together with the magazine in, and then we'll do a quick dry firing test just to show you what we can expect. But like I say, this realistically should be able to run an 11.1 LiPo. It will definitely run on a 7.4 LiPo, but I don't have the specs for the little MOSFET in there because there isn't any spec for the MOSFET, so I don't know what it's rated for, what it can handle, but that is just the way it is. So I'll be back in a second and we'll have a little play with it. One thing I will show you just while I'm popping this back together is this top rail system. If you deprime the charging handle, pop it on there and then slide it back in, it will just immediately lock home and sit there. I've actually managed to knock that little tab out of place, which is annoying, as it can be quite finicky to get back in. This is the bit of metal I was referring to, and that should sit in there like so. I believe what that does is that provides sort of like your spring lock for the bigger metal piece that goes in, which is here, and that should, if I've got the metal bit in the right place, so I think it is, slide back in, that's it, and then it retains you. You just hear that click as it goes in. So that's it, back in. The front end is now locked in place. The actual barrel itself is as simple as sliding it back in and twisting it back into place. So you just make sure that your feed hole for your BBs is facing down when you put the barrel in. Not that it's really a major issue because you've got a big foregrip hanging off the front. And you can see that lever sort of moves by itself as you push, and then you just twist it back into place. When that lever locks, you have an all-in-one piece of org again. It is very easy to take down and put back together. I've made it look like a complete faff on video because I'm working with sort of limited space. But as you can see, it goes together and comes apart beautifully. Okay, so here we are. I've got my wee set of scales. I'm just going to pop it down, try and get the balance on them without resting on the table, which is easier said than done. I think that's it. So we're about, nearly 3.4 kilos without the magazine in. The magazine doesn't weigh much though, so it shouldn't make a huge amount of difference. Just going to have to move her out of the way so I can squeeze her in there. So with the mag in, we are comfortably 3.5 kilos essentially. By the time that mag's full of BBs, you're going to be looking at 3.5 kilos fully loaded before you put an optic on it. So it's not a light weapon. It's about 8.5 pounds. So you're not going to want to go lugging this too far. And if you are going to lug it, then you are sort of like going the extra mile for your realism. But I'm just going to lift the camera up and I'll show you what this looks like with a magazine in. It's really rather groovy. Okay, and here we are. So this is your AUG with its little magazine in, and it does look very aggressive and unique, which is exactly why I like them. So what I'm going to do is I've got the battery plugged in. This is only an 8.4 volt. It will take a 9.6 stick pack or non-chuck pack in the back, but I was going to say with the MOSFET, assuming it can handle 11.1 volts, I would pretty much just go for an 11.1 pack in this, or 7.4 if you don't want to run the gun quite so spicy. You want to have it a bit more sort of realistic in terms of its rate of fire. Obviously we've got our safety here, so if we put it onto fire, there's no rounds in the weapon. I'm pointing it away from me anyway. So we have quite a snappy trigger response for an AUG. The trigger actually feels really nice, which is amazing because these bullpups tend to have terrible triggers because the trigger mechanism isn't direct, so to speak. This feels really nice, and as I say, bear in mind we're on a standard Cyma 8.4 volt pack, which is going to be rubbish. That's your single shot, your semi-auto, and we pull back for full auto, you hear the micro switch click, and there we are. So rate of fire on the 8.4 is not crazy, which is not what we're expecting. Obviously 11.1 is going to pick it up a bit. Obviously in the review, the firing test, I'll have full chrono data and the the accuracy. I'm not expecting it to be that accurate. It is a cheap AEG. For what you get here, there's a lot of airsoft replica for your 110, 120 pounds. And cheaper if anywhere had them in stock that was cheap, then it would be cheaper than that. Or if you could still buy them from Tire and Gun, these are dirt cheap guns. It feels well built. I haven't picked it up and thought, that's horrible. We've got sort of stiffling on the grip and the side of the stock, and like I say, everything feels nice. The only thing I would say is I wish this was made of metal, this charging handle, because we have gone to huge lengths to make sure that everything here feels great, and then kind of phoned it in with the bit you actually pull and touch and play with is made out of plastic. But such is life. Very much looking forward to firing this, and yeah, that's my take on the R901 by Armament, or a Steyr AUG as it's better known. So thank you very much for watching. I'll have a firing review of the CT25 or the Colt Junior gas blowback, and this up next on the channel. So stay tuned, it's going to be a fun time. I've been Ben, you've been watching the Shots Fired Airsoft. Thank you very much and goodbye.